Buddy.
Tell us something good. Put something good in the waiting room, in the chat room. I like hearing what's going on in your world. So tell us something good.
Tuesday's closer to the weekend than Monday.
Yep. And once we get everyone in here, guys, we'll get started here in just a second. And then Graham, I think you're kick us off, right? So whenever.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. What you want to wait 30 seconds or start at 2:04?
I said we just go for it because we're already 3 minutes in, and
cool. It is recorded, so
yeah.
Yeah. Let me pull up my little thing.
Awesome. I'm seeing 3 under contract in 3 days. That's amazing. Nice job, Jennifer. Double close last week. Also, Jennifer. Jennifer must be a good name to be in real estate. Awesome. Yeah, another day doing what I love. It looks like a lot of you guys have closings coming up. Awesome. So Graham's going to kick us off in just a second. If you do not already have something to take notes with, grab something because I'm going to give you a language pattern today, and you're really going to want to write it down. So make sure you have something to take notes, and then we'll get started here in just 1 second.
Yeah, right on. Thanks everybody for stopping by, and welcome to today's webinar, Navigate Interest Rate Objections Like a Pro with MAPS coach Anna Kruger. I'll try to make this short and sweet. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours on the MAPS Group YouTube channel. And I will share that link in the chat momentarily. And I'll also have that up on YouTube within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, Anna does value group participation. So we ask if you have any questions for her, please type them in the chat box. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs, please feel free to email us at fasttrack, FASTTRACK@kw.com. That's all for me, Anna. The floor is yours.
All right, welcome everyone. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know you have lots of choices of what you could be doing today, and there's like 200 of you registered for this webinar. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to handle interest rate objections. So I want to hear from you. If you would, in the chat box, tell me your position. So buyer agent, listing agent, inside sales agent, rainmaker, whatever that is. And then tell me, what are you hearing? Your boots on the ground. So what are people telling you when you're in appointments, you're on the phone, going to set an appointment, and then things stop because of something regarding interest rates or the current market? So let me know what you're hearing. And what we're going to do today, so you have an expectation of what's going to happen, we have a whole hour. Usually I only do a 30-minute bonus webinar, but we're going to spend an hour today because this is such an important topic. Wouldn't you all agree? Like, this is a hot topic right now. And what we're going to start with is, how do you uncover the true objection, which is not going to be interest rate specific. I'm more just teaching you how to uncover objections. So the first half of today's webinar, you can use with any objection you hear anytime, anywhere, even from your kids, from your husband. Like, any objection you hear, you're going to be able to use the first half of today's webinar. Then we're going to transition into, okay, now once we've uncovered the true objection, what knowledge do you need to have about the current interest rate situation? Like, how do you address it? So everybody write this down. You're going to get this later in the webinar, but I want you to write this down, highlight it. It's super important. I want you to remember that all objections, and I'm going to say it slow for you, all objections are either a lack of education or a lack of motivation. And I'll throw in a little caveat. Maybe someone just went bankrupt, and so for that reason, they're not qualified. But overall, all objections are either a lack of education or a lack of motivation. So what we got to do is understand the education ourselves so that we can educate them and overcome it. True story, when I was a new inside sales agent, and I've been doing this since 2006, by the way, when I was a new inside sales agent, someone said, I think I can sell more money on my own as a for sale by owner. And you know what I said? Yep. Like, probably can, because I didn't have the education yet of how realtors earned them more money. So do you see how my lack of education, I stalled out solving the objection because I didn't know. So my goal today is to help you know what to say to educate your clients about interest rates. Sound good? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. And this is where I said you definitely want to make sure you have notes. Y'all are getting a little preview, so I'm curious how many of you have taken the class Mastering Inside Sales. The content I'm sharing with you today is directly out of the class Mastering Inside Sales, which is starting tomorrow. So I'll talk more about that at the end. But just know, if you like today's content, we have a whole class where you get 18 sessions, very much like the one we're about to do. So there are resources if you want to get better with your lead gen, lead conversion. So what are we doing today? One, I want to help you know, what are they really saying? So when they say, I live in my parents' basement, so I don't want to buy a house. I saw that in the chat box. I'm reading the chat box here. They want to wait. Interest rates are too high. I don't want to overpay. What if I can't get as much of a home? All of that's coming right out of the chat box. I want to help you know, what are they really saying? Like, what's underneath of that? Then I'm going to teach you, how do you build rapport as you're uncovering the objections, so they think to themselves, I like her. I don't know what it is. I just really like her, or I like him. And then number 3, specific solutions on how to overcome the interest rate objection. Are y'all ready? All right, cool. By the way, I do welcome interaction. Use the chat box, and at the end, we'll have time for questions. Okay, so first thing, when you hear an objection, the first thing you want to do is welcome and rephrase it. So everyone write this down. Do not take pictures of the screen, because you're going to learn more as you write it. I want you to master today's content, okay? So make sure you're actually writing it down. And you're going to welcome and rephrase it. So what that would sound like is, hey, Lauren, I am so glad you told me that you want to wait because you're concerned about interest rates. Is that right? Okay, cool. Let me ask y'all a question. Why would we, instead of just giving a one-line response, why would we slow down to say, you know, I'm so glad you brought that up, Graham. What I'm hearing you say is you're concerned about interest rates, right? Go ahead and unmute yourselves. We can interact here. Why are we slowing down to welcome it and rephrase it? Just take a guess if you're not sure.
To make them feel heard.
Ooh, I love the interaction. Okay, I think Emanuela and is it Charlie? I think I heard both of you. So let's Emanuela first and then Charlie.
To calm them down. When you slow your pace, you literally bring the anxiety high to low.
Right. Yes, exactly. Then, Charlie, what were you going to say? Oh, I think you're muted. Maybe? It doesn't say you're muted, but we can't hear you for some reason. So maybe use the chat box.
It allows them to feel heard, like, wow, I'm a person and this is a scary subject for me. So they're paying attention to what I'm saying and they're listening.
Right, exactly. How many of us, we tell a concern to someone, and this could be a family member, it could be a salesperson, it could be an advisor, and like they just immediately have a, but you should because blah, 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 right? We've all experienced that. And it just kind of shuts us down. True story, I just came from the chiropractor. In fact, I said, I got to go. I have a webinar I have to teach. And I was afraid for him to adjust my neck. I just started going to him. And I told him, I was like, I know you're the expert, but I'm just nervous to have you adjust my neck. Do you have another way you can fix it? And he put his hands here and he said, I'm so glad you told me that. He said, it's important that you're comfortable and there are multiple ways that I can help solve this for you. So never hesitate to speak up. Do you know what that did for me? Like, I feel like I'm in the right place. I'm leaving my old chiropractor. I really like this guy. Okay. So you're kind of doing that for them. The other thing here, guys, and the reason I'm explaining this is you're going to remember it better if you know why you're doing it. When you repeat their words, it builds rapport. So if they say downsize and you say downsize, that builds rapport. If they say, I'm concerned interest rates are going to be jacked up, and you say, all right, I'm hearing you say you're concerned interest rates are going to be jacked up, they're going to subconsciously start to feel a bond with you because you're speaking the same language. Does that make sense to everyone? It's just like if you're in a room and someone is standing like this. In fact, Graham, maybe I'm modeling you because you're kind of like this right now. That must mean I'm in rapport with Graham. I just saw Freya doing it. Maybe that was subconscious. I don't know. But like when you mimic the way someone is standing subconsciously, it shows rapport. So on the phone, using their words does the same thing. It builds rapport. Everybody got it? So that's part of why you welcome it and then you re-say it back to them. All right, what I'm hearing you say is blah, 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 correct? Okay, cool. Then you're gonna do what's called open digging. Now, if you have not taken the class Mastering Inside Sales, you might wonder, what is a digging question? So let me explain that real quick. Digging is when you use something they just said in their very next question. So if I'm talking to Amber and Amber says, I'm concerned about interest rates and how that will impact my equity, then I'm going to say, what about interest rates impacting your equity is important to you? Got it? If I'm talking to Lori and she says, I want to wait because I think the market's going to crash, I'm not going to say, you're going to push it off till fall because you're concerned about the economy. Because that's not what she said, right? I'm going to say, you want to wait till the fall because you think the market's going to crash. And that's using her words. So when I say open digging, that's what I mean. So I'm going to put the slide back up in just a minute, but I want to do an experiment. I want full participation. We have 105 people in here live. I know some of you are watching the recording later. Use the chat box and tell me, if I say to you, I want to wait because I'm concerned about interest rates, the first thing that popped in your mind is to why? Put that in the chat box, and I'm just going to be quiet for a minute. So if Elise says to you, I want to wait because I'm concerned about interest rates, tell me in the chat box what your assumption is about why. And I'll read these out here in just a second. And we're going to kind of count up how many different reasons we get. We should have a lot because there's 100-some people in here. All right, so I want to wait because I'm concerned about interest rates. Here's some of what we think. Overpaying, not enough info, cost is too high, affordability, market crash, another payment's high, so I'm not going to count that one. Anything that's double, I'm not going to count it. They think they'll go down, so that would be 6. Affordability, pay more. Monthly payment, that's a 7th one. Number 8, can't qualify. We haven't heard that one yet. Number 9, they think rates will decrease. Fear of the unknown, that's number 10. And I'm going to stop there. Can you see how just in the little bit that I read, and it's telling me there's 25 messages I haven't read yet. In just the ones I read, do you see how there were 10 different reasons why this group of people assumed someone would want to wait because of interest rates? See that? So that's why we cannot have a one-line response. How many of you have been to trainings and they say, if they say A, you say B. Here's your one-liner for that objection. And we do not want to do that because as we just saw, just from this group, there are 10 different reasons why someone might want to wait. So that's why we say, hey, I'm really glad you brought that up. What you're saying is you want to wait because you're concerned interest rates are going to rise. Is that right? Okay, great. What about interest rates rising is important to you? Maybe they say, I'm afraid I won't be able to afford a monthly payment. Okay, what makes you believe you won't be able to afford a monthly payment? Again, you're using their words. And maybe they say, I really want to buy, a house, but not have a payment more than $1,800 a month. Okay, so what's the actual objection, by the way, in this example? You can either unmute or use the chat box. What is their actual objection? Anybody?
Budget.
Budget. And be super specific. You're right. What did they say? Me, it was me. But what was the reason the lead quote said the reason they were concerned about interest rates ultimately was because why?
Monthly payment.
Fear.
Yeah. Monthly payment. They actually said, I don't want my monthly payment to be over $1,800. Everybody see that? So that's actually what we're dealing with. That's actually their true concern. It started off sounding like I'm worried about interest rates. But when we dial it down, what they're actually saying is I don't want to pay more than $1,800 a month. Okay? So now you're going to summarize it because you've gotten down to the actual issue. So what I'm hearing you say, Frank, is what you're concerned about interest rates, but really ultimately what you're concerned about is making sure you can buy a home that's under $1,800 a month. Is that right? And then they can either say yes or no, and then you can correct it if needed. And then I'm going to do what's called a conditional close. So write this down, conditional close. A conditional close, and don't just write the words conditional close because people frequently are like, wait, what was that? I don't remember what a conditional close is. So write down the words. If I can solve it, basically, if I can show you a home that you love, and it would be less than $1,800 a month, would you be open to talking about it? And that's how you uncover the true objection. So I want to role play this in just a minute with somebody so that we make sure it's really clear. So somebody be thinking of an objection that's realistic, not some crazy thing we never hear of. That's not super helpful. Think of an objection that's realistic. And it's not, I don't want to move. That's more of a motivation problem. We want a problem to solve. Like, I'm concerned about interest rates, or I need a bigger down payment, something. So think.
I have one.
Okay, I'll come to you in just a second. Put your name in the chat box so I can call on you. Thank you. All right, so what you're doing here is you're actually uncovering the true scenario. Now, if they say, yeah, I mean, I would be open to that, then you're going to educate them on the answer. If they say, no, I wouldn't be open to that, then you're going to ask, well, what else is holding you back? Okay. I'm curious because I want to know the audience here. A lot of you, I know your names from the class. How many of you have never heard this before? Meaning, like, you probably never took Mastering Inside Sales. And I'm only wondering because I don't want to spend too long on this if the majority of you are aware. And I think the majority of you might not have heard this before. While you do that, I'm going to get my whiteboard. So let me know if this is new to you or if it's familiar. Okay, a lot of you are saying it's new. Okay. So then maybe we'll practice it a few times and then we'll get into the solutions. Okay, I think Jennifer said she had an objection. Is that right? Yeah, Jennifer Smeller.
Yeah, I do.
Perfect. So we're going to pretend that we're already on the phone. We've already been talking. I have your motivation already. We're actually in pretty decent rapport here. And I'm into the part where I'm qualifying you, like, when do you want to move? How much you want to spend, all that. And you're going to throw an objection my way. Just give me one because we're learning the pattern. Okay, don't give me like 5.
Yeah.
Okay, as we go, y'all are going to notice I'm going to write down what Jennifer is saying, which is what I would do in an actual phone call. I've been doing this since 2006. And when I'm talking with leads, I still have a piece of paper and I take notes the way I'm going to show you. So I'm going to model for you what I want you to do on the phone with a client. All right, so Jennifer, go ahead and just lob me your objection. We're already on the phone. What is it?
Well, we've been trying to save for a down payment for the last 6 months, but now the interest rates are going up. We're just going to wait we can wait a couple of years because we're living in my parents' basement rent free right now.
Okay.
And this is actually a true situation.
Okay, I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, first of all, Jennifer, thank you so much for telling me that. What I'm hearing you say is you want to save up for bigger of a down payment and possibly wait a few years, and you don't feel pressure right now because you're in your parents' basement. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So Jennifer, tell me what's important to you about having more money for a down payment and waiting a few years?
Just being able to afford a home with this market. It's so high right now with houses in Vancouver.
Okay. All right. So I'm hearing you say you want to afford a home. Now, when you say afford a home, describe for me, what does that look like for you? Because affordability means different things to different people. So tell me more about that.
Well, we don't have money to fix it up. So it has to be new.
Okay.
We would like as new as possible, but doesn't have to be brand new.
Okay. And when I hear you say, pause one moment, I'm going to re-ask the question because I'm still not sure what her core objection is. Can I afford a home right now?
Right.
But I haven't yet heard what that means to her. So I asked her, what can you afford? And she said, I want something new, but she still didn't really answer. So I'm just going to ask again in another way. So I'm hearing you say, Jennifer, you want a new home that you can afford. What's affordable to you in your mind right now?
Well, we don't want to spend more than like $2,000 a month in mortgages.
Okay.
Mortgage payments.
Totally got it. And by the way, I have to compliment that you're so clear on how much you want to spend. I'm a huge fan of people that have some clarity, so it's awesome. So Jennifer, what I'm hearing you say is you want to wait a couple years so you can save up for a bigger down payment. And that's so you can afford a home, a newer home. And to you, that would be $2,000 a month or less. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Pause. We're not actually talking about interest rates, are we?
No.
What actually she's concerned about is how much money am I going to pay per month? And I'm just going to go out on a limb for someone that's done this a long time. Most people that masquerade as interest rate concerned people or down payment concerned people, What they're actually concerned about is their monthly payment. Don't ever assume, follow the process. It could be something else, but
Right.
most likely this is what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the pattern. So Jennifer, if we're going to do some research, but if I can find you a home now that would get you out of your parents' basement and it would be affordable in that it's less than $2,000 a month, would you be open to that opportunity now if I can find that for you?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we'll end scene. Now, if she had said no, I would have said, what else is holding you back? But I also told her have one objection because we're learning right now.
Right.
So little pro tip, we teach this in Mastering Inside Sales. When you're learning a new pattern, don't be like 12 objection lady, just one, because you're just trying to get the pattern down. We don't send our kids outside mountain biking the first time when they're 5, right? Like we put them in the cul-de-sac with training wheels. Lauren just laughed. Maybe she sends her kids out with mountain biking. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. By the way, I really appreciate your help.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, thank you. You helped me. So I'm going to go back to my client and see if I can maybe start the process again.
Yes. Listen, sometimes you take a training like this and then you're like, oh, I'm thinking of someone right now I totally could have used this for. What I found very helpful is to call and say, you know what, Jennifer, I was thinking about you and your situation of wanting to buy a house.
Yeah.
You know how much that means to them?
Mm-hmm.
Like that means the world to them. So that's your line. If you're hearing this and you're like, oh, I know someone I totally should have used. Hey, I was thinking about you and I had some thoughts. I want to ask you some questions to see how I can help you. Okay. So let me walk you through this. And then Charlie, I see that you have one. I'll come to you in a moment. And then after one more role play, we're going to get into interest rates specifically. Like how do you overcome some of those things? By the way, is this helpful, everybody? I'm like a feedback person. I get energy from facial expressions. So like everybody give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. All right. So let me show you a little bit of what I did. Can you see this? I know there's some reflecting going on. What I did is when she started talking, the top line, I wrote down what she said. Because I am not smart enough, nor do I have good enough memory to remember everything she said to say it back to her at the end of all this. I gotta write it down. And I will tell you, I've taught this for years and years and years and years. I really do not believe there's a way to do this without writing it down. So what I recommend is you have like it could be a notebook on I'm gonna show you my desk, but don't judge me, okay? I wasn't planning to do this, so set your judgment aside. Do you see my 3-ring, or it's like a 3-shelf thing right there? Did you all see that? Okay, it was like a 3-shelf paper holder. In that shelf paper holder, I keep buyer sheets, seller sheets, and scrap paper. So that when I'm on the phone with someone, I can just whip out a piece of paper and start basically logging what they're saying, okay? So I wrote down, say for down payment, you're gonna wait a few years. And then she said afford a home. So I wrote down afford a home. So then I was able to say, what does that mean to you to afford a home? And then she said, well, I want something new. So then I said, okay, you want a new home you can afford. What does that mean to you? And then she said, no more than $2,000 a month. Using her words builds the rapport. Can't do it unless you write it down. Everybody good so far? All right, let me tell you a quick story. And then Charlie, I'm coming to you to just build your belief. Some of you have heard this if you've taken Mastering Inside Sales, so just you'll hear it again. It's okay. It looks like most of you are new. We had an investor call me one day. I'm a new inside sales agent on my team, and guess what the guy says? He was from California, and I live in South Carolina where it's a lot cheaper. So he goes, I have a lot of money, and I've identified Greenville, South Carolina as to where I want to invest my money. My goal is to buy 250 homes over the next 5 years. What would you do if you had that call? I had an immediate don't jack up the phone call, Anna. So I thought, okay, defer to the training. He's just a human. Human psychology should work on anybody. So just go back to the training. And by the way, this is why you have to practice, so that when you're in the situation, you just do what you're supposed to do. If you've ever taken the self-defense class, they teach that, right? Like you practice, so that if the situation happens that sadly you have to use your self-defense information, it's just a reaction at that point because you have it internalized. So I went there. I was like, okay, just do the training. So he's like, I don't want to work with a specific realtor. And I did the uncovering objection pattern I just taught you. I used his words. I repeated things back. And do you know what he said to me? He said, I'm not sure that I'm going to sign with you, but I can tell you, I talk to realtors all the time and I don't like them. There's just something about you that I like. I'm willing to meet with your team. And inwardly, I'm thinking, it's because I used your words. Like, I know why. I repeated your words back to you. I asked you questions. I didn't just lob you with a one-liner about why you should use me. I just followed the training that someone gave me one day that I'm now giving to you. So if that doesn't give you proof that this works, it works. And by the way, he's still buying. Well, last I knew, he was still buying houses with the team. There was one on the corner of the right by our office that he had bought. So, totally. Yeah, Andrea, real quick.
How are you?
Okay, I think she accidentally unmuted. Okay, we're gonna do one more role play. Then we're gonna get into some education about interest rates so you know how to overcome that specific objection. And then at the end, I'll open it up to questions. So if you have a question, just hang tight for a second. We'll get there in a moment. All right, Charlie, you said you have one. Again, make sure it's like a normal everyday run of the mill because we want it to benefit the group, and just have one objection, not like 20. Can we hear you? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so we're already on the phone. I'm gonna pretend I already know her motivation. We've probably been on the phone like 5 to 7 minutes. Charlie, go ahead and give me your objection. And by the way, as I graph it, all of you pretend you're me and just graph it. Just practice graphing it as we go. So Charlie, what's your objection?
Yeah, so we already have been looking for houses, but the interest rates keep rising, so our buying power keeps going down.
Okay. Got it. So what I'm hearing you say, Charlie, is because interest rates are rising, you recognize your buyer power is going down. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate you telling me that, by the way. So this might be an obvious question, but tell me what concerns you specifically about your buying power going down with the interest rates going up?
Yeah, just because we're already, kind of struggling to find stuff since it's moving so quickly right now. And it just seems like we're just going to be in a crappy house if it keeps going this way.
Okay. Now I heard you say you're struggling to find something moving quickly. I'm going to pause for a moment. I already have 2 solutions in my mind I want to give her, but I got to keep drilling down to get to the true objection. So I'm having to know that that's normal, that when you're doing this, it's hard to not say something. Just keep asking questions. Okay, so Charlie, I hear you say that you're struggling, you find that things are moving really quickly, and you really just don't want to end up in a crappy house. So tell me, what is a non-crappy house to you that you think you could afford? Describe that for me for a second.
A 3-bed would be great, 2-bath, so I don't have to share with my son anymore. Okay. And then a yard, honestly, just a nice, decent sized yard. We like to be outside all the time, so the yard's the biggest thing.
Okay. Which, by the way, I just got a little motivation because she said I don't want to share with my son anymore. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, Charlie, is you're concerned about interest rates affecting your buying power, which, by the way, you're an educated person there. That's awesome that you're thinking about that. And so what you're worried about is you're already struggling to find something because things are moving so fast. And really, at the end of the day, you just want to find a 3-bed, 2-bath house with a yard where you can be outside a lot. That's something that you can get with your current buying power. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I can find you something, Charlie, that you can afford with your current buying power, that is 3-bedroom, 2-bath with an outside yard for you and your son, would you be open to exploring that now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see what we can do. And then I would transition to the thing I'm about to teach you. So I'm gonna explain that in just a second. Now, again, if she had said no, I would have said, okay, well, what else is holding you back? Tell me what else is going on. Because there's probably, how many of you have more than one objection to stuff, right? Like if I said, I'm gonna pick something stupid. If I said, let's go to the Olive Garden tonight for dinner and we all live in the same town, you might have 2 objections, right? Like, I don't like the Olive Garden and I already told my husband where, I'm gonna make dinner tonight. That's actually 2 different objections, right? So it's common for people to have 2 or more objections. So I'm getting really passionate if you can't tell. But if you have a problem with people showing up, do you set appointments and it felt good? And then you're shocked that they're not showing up? You know what's usually going on is we only uncovered 1 objection and then we solved it and we felt amazing. And they felt good too. and then they hung up, and then they remembered their other concern, and now they didn't show up. So I know I'm not teaching you right now how to set appointments that show up. We do teach that in Mastering Inside Sales, which starts tomorrow. I'll explain more about that in a minute. But know that this is actually a factor in whether or not appointments show up. Can you all see that? Okay, so put it in the chat box and tell me, what are you learning so far? And let's have 1 or 2 people unmute yourself. Tell me what you're learning so far, and then we're gonna go into interest rates.
Anna, I have been wondering for the last year why my people keep canceling, and you just answered my question.
Yay!
I think I'm gonna cry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that fills I just got chills. Part of why I do this, guys, like I never thought, I always said I would never do business or sales. Here I am. I used to be a teacher. In my heart, like I get that teaching this to you is going to increase your income. It might help you pay for aging parents to have the care that they need. It might help you buy a rental property so you can retire early. Like, Lori, that fills my bucket to know that we just solved something that you've been dealing with for a year. So thank you for telling me that. Who else? What are you getting so far? Oh, another person said more than one objection. How important it is to recap and review their motivation using their words. Yeah, leveraging parroting in a real way. Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about just knowledge. So remember I said at the beginning, write down objections are either a lack of education or a lack of motivation. Remember that? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to educate you all on interest. And some of this you might already know. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but truthfully, I didn't know until there's a website I follow called keepingcurrentmatters.com. I'm curious if any of you watch that. I'm going to put it in the chat box real quick. keepingcurrentmatters.com. So the truth is, when I was new in real estate, remember I said the FSBO, the for sale by owner, was like, I can make more money without you. And I was like, yep, you probably can. Yeah, like I don't know what to say to you. I have no information whatsoever about why that would not be true. So I started following Keeping Current Matters. Haro, who was my former team leader, put me onto that website. And what I love is once a month, they do a monthly market report. And a lot of us aren't researchers. They're researchers that love research, and then they put together like a 20 to 30 minute presentation for real estate agents so that we don't have to do the research, and they educate us on what's going on with the market. So everything I'm about to show you is coming from that website, keepingcurrentmatters.com. So let's take a look real quick at this first slide. And I'm just going to jump around a little bit. Jot this information down because this is information you can use to help as you're talking with buyers and sellers. But again, this is from keepingcurrentmatters.com. So they're saying mortgage rates are likely to continue to move higher throughout the balance of 2022, although the pace of increasing is likely to moderate. Much of the increase in early 2022 is an anticipation of what will happen later this year. So let's go back real quick. What about the person who said, I'm concerned about my buying power and being able to afford a home? Is that likely to improve based off what I just showed you? So can you see how if they say, yeah, I mean, I'd be open to hearing about your solution. If you're then able to say, you know, the researchers have indicated that interest rates are still expected to rise this year, maybe not as fast as they just did, yet they're not expected to go down. Can you see how that might help someone who just said, I want to wait? That education piece could get them off the fence to do something now, right? So that's piece number one. Let's look at another slide. And I have quite a few to show you. I thought this was really cool. So people that are thinking maybe the market will slow down, or maybe it'll be more of a buyer's market soon. And that could be true. But a lot of times the reason people want it to be a buyer's market is they're thinking, I'll have more affordability, right? Like if there won't be as many people competing. And everyone hear what I'm saying? By the way, none of this we know for sure is fact because the future hasn't happened yet. Are we all clear on that? These are just projections. I'm not telling you for sure what's going to happen. But it might be true that a couple months or next year, there won't be as much competition for houses. That might be true. The market might swing to a buyer's market. However, if we're talking about affordability, Interest rates are continued to expect to rise, and looks what has happened in history. When interest rates rise, home prices have also risen. So you have some buyers out there that are uneducated, and they're thinking maybe because interest rates are rising, homes will be more affordable later. And if you look here, we actually have seen from history that when interest rates rise, also home prices, not one time have we seen in this graph that interest rate or home prices have gone backwards. So is it true that if I wait, homes will be more affordable, according to what we just saw? So according to what we just saw, likely home prices are going to keep going up and interest rates are going to keep going up. So yeah, you might not have to have as many multiple offers, but that doesn't mean it's going to be cheaper. You got what I'm saying? Okay. And by the way, if you have a question about what I mean, let me know, because if you're wondering, someone else is probably wondering as well. So just don't be afraid.
Is this national, Anna?
National, yeah. I'm glad you clarified. So Keeping Current Matters does national data for the United States, to be clear. I know sometimes we have people joining from Canada and other places. So this is US data. Sometimes, I don't have any of this for you today, but sometimes they'll do a graph where it shows by state, but it's generally national. So what I would recommend is following keepingcurrentmatters.com, and then also knowing from your local realtor board the local data. And if you know national data and local data, can you see how you're going to be much more empowered to educate clients? And remember, most objections are a lack of education. So if you can educate them, right? My hope is a whole bunch of you right now have a client in your mind that you're thinking, oh, that client I talked to just this week, they would actually maybe move forward if I explained to them that home prices are expected to go up and interest rates are still expected to go up. I just didn't know how to talk about it last week. Do y'all have someone in mind? If not, I want you to think of someone, because I bet y'all have someone. I want you to think of their name and write their name down so that you remember to call them. Latoya has 2 people. Charlie has 10. Ooh, we're going to be making some money. Okay. And helping clients, by the way. I like making money. I also really like helping clients. Okay, so let's look at this. I'm just going to summarize the slide. You can read the whole thing if you want. But what they find is that so this is going to help sellers, by the way. When interest rates go up 1%, which we just saw them go up a bit more than that. When interest rates go up 1%, we find that appreciation slows down, okay? So if a home was appreciating at 11%, for every percentage point it goes up, it's going to drop 4 points. I hope that makes sense. So let me say this a few ways. Sometimes people will hear in the news, home prices are going to slow down. And tell me, either from unmuting or using the chat box, what does the average consumer hear in their head when they hear on the news that home prices are going to slow down? What do they think that means?
They think that prices are going to drop, but they're not factoring in interest rates.
Yeah, they think prices are going to drop. So what that would mean is if I have a $200,000 house and home prices drop or slow down, the average consumer is hearing in their head, oh shoot, my $200,000 house is going to be worth $180,000. That's what they hear. And that's why the news can be scary sometimes. So that affects a buyer, because a buyer might think, I want to wait because what if the market goes down? And they're thinking, how I might buy a house that won't be worth as much later. Or the seller might be afraid of the same thing, right? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know when to time selling my house. If we look back at this graph, guys, they're not saying prices are going to go backwards. Here's how I would explain it to a client. If I'm talking to Frank and he just listened to the news and he's like, oh man, I just heard prices are going to slow down and I'm just worried about my equity and blah, blah, blah. The way I would explain it is, imagine, Frank, that we've been in a car driving 100 miles per hour. That's actually a little too fast, right? That's actually way too fast. 100 miles per hour, way too fast. We're just going to slow down to 50. Are we still moving forward at 50 miles per hour? Like, is the car going forwards or backwards at 50 miles per hour? It's going forward. We're just not going as fast as we were at 100 miles per hour. And that's what we mean by prices slowing down. So again, can you see how that education piece would help your clients? They're hearing, I'm going to lose value in my home. And what we actually mean is, and I'll put the slide back up now that I've explained it in like plain terms. What they're saying is interest rates go up by a point, your home appreciation slows down by 4. But it does not say it goes negative. It does not say it goes negative. Any questions on that slide? I want to make sure you got it. And by the way, this will be available on the MAPS YouTube page for replay. If you want to rewatch any of this, it'll be there. Okay, with rates rising, and this is from the chief economist for Freddie Mac, with rates rising and expected to rise through 2023, it makes sense to obtain a purchase or refinance mortgage now if you're in good standing. So again, think of names. Who have you talked to recently that has said, I want to wait because I'm concerned about interest rates? That if they knew interest rates are continued to keep going up and we're expecting to have prices continue going up, they are actually misinformed. And I know for me, it used to be before I knew all this stuff that I'd be like, okay, well, I'll follow up with you in the fall because I didn't really know how to handle it. So again, I want to make sure that you know how to handle these things when we're done today. Okay, I have 3 more slides for you. And then we're going to talk about where you can get more training like this. Are y'all enjoying this? There's a lot more where this came from. So I'll tell you where to find that here in a minute. And then we'll open it up for questions. All right, slide 18. So this is Fortune, Lance Lambert, it's their director. Now more industry insiders are throwing out their previous forecasts and replacing them with more bullish short-term outlooks. Some experts say the 2022 spring housing market might go down as one of the most competitive on record. So give yourself a pat on the back, by the way. Like you're in that market, which means you're cutting your teeth, you're building your skill, right? Like you are, when the market shifts, when that happens, you will be the realtors that stay in the game and your business grows because you're in this market right now. You're just building your muscle, okay? This is why it is so important to know a client's motivation. I'm teaching you how to uncover objections, but can we all just take a minute and acknowledge if they're not motivated and we don't know why they're motivated, all the uncovering objection knowledge in the world won't matter if we can't keep them motivated. You have to keep them motivated. I just recently went back to the gym in December to lose some weight. And I was doing the Jacob's ladder. Are any of you familiar with the Jacob's ladder? It's kind of like a torture device. As you climb the ladder drops. So you're climbing, but you never actually move. You just climb and climb and climb. It's horrible. Well, I was on there and I really was like, I probably was in the worst mood I maybe ever have been at the gym. And my trainer got in my ear and she said, Anna, remember about the red dress that you want to wear in Greece for your photo shoot for your next birthday. And you know what that did for me? Like, all right, like, let's keep going. But if she hadn't been there in my ear to remind me why I was doing what I was doing, do you think I would have kept going? I mean, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't have. And if I somehow managed to keep myself moving forward, I would not have been doing it with the tenacity. So her reminder to me kept me moving. And it's really important we do that for our clients. So with everything I'm telling you, you have to remember a big part of this is their motivation, which we haven't trained today. We do that in Mastering Inside Sales, but you should have a little taste of that through what you learned today. All right, 2 more slides, this one and 1 more. So people that are concerned about buying a house, and what if my house goes backwards? They're worried about maybe buying when the market's high, and what if I lose value? Well, take a look at this, okay? Home price expectation survey. They're actually expecting that if you buy a $360,000 house, that by 2027, that house will be worth $456,000, $342. That's a big deal. So again, people that want to wait for interest rates to not be rising, they're projected to keep rising. And if they're concerned about buying a house that might not be worth it later, can you actually see how they're totally misinformed? If you're talking to people that think they need to wait so they can afford, all that's going to happen is they're going to be able to afford a less and less house. That's all that's going to happen. So it's really important that we tell them. And then home price forecast for 2022. Notice nowhere, these are all the different people that make projections and they put them on one slide. Nowhere is anybody saying that they're going to go backwards. So again, we cannot predict the future. We don't know for sure that that won't happen. Who knew that COVID would happen, right? But if you look here, no one is predicting that houses are going to lose value. The worst projection is it'll go up 3%. That's the worst projection. Average is 6.7%. So again, if you have buyers that are concerned about interest rates, can you see how there's just a lot of education they need that would actually help overcome? People that want to have a bigger, write this down. I don't have a slide for you. I just know this because someone told me. For every interest rate point that rises, buyers lose 10% buying power. It's almost like it cancels it out. So I had a cousin who said, I want to buy a house in the fall. And I was like, why do you want to wait till the fall? And she said, well, I want a bigger down payment to help my mortgage payment. Well, I knew interest rates were rising. So I said, here's my concern, and you need to talk to a lender because I'm not a lender. I don't want to try to act like a lender. I'm not a lender. Talk to one. But we're expecting interest rates to rise. And if you wait till the fall and they rise, it will actually wipe out the benefit of you having a bigger down payment, depending on how much they rise and all that stuff. So she called a lender and she ended up buying a house within 2 months. And she was like, thank you. I had no idea. I just thought a bigger down payment would help me. I didn't understand, again, education. I didn't understand the impact of interest rates and all that stuff. And she thanked me, and it saved her a lot of money. So let's talk about where you go from here. So the main thing I want you to remember is all objections are either a lack of education or a lack of motivation. So you want to get really good at figuring that out. If you got value from today, I will tell you, this is one of 18, okay? We have 18 one-hour sessions in the class Mastering Inside Sales, which is, let me clarify real quick. It's called Mastering Inside Sales. And so a lot of people interpret that's only for inside sales agents. But really what inside sales agents do is lead generation, lead conversion, right? So if you talk to buyers or sellers, this class will benefit you. So it's really the art of having a relationship-based sales process. What I just taught you, relationship-based, right? Like you're learning how to build rapport. You're learning how to talk to the client in a way that means something to them. I even had a photographer from my church take the class. And I told her, I was like, hey, I mean, it's not for photographers, but I know the content will help you, but just you're going to have to like translate it into photographer language. She told me after 6 sessions, her business had already increased. I wasn't seeing her on webinars anymore. And she's like, well, I'm watching the recording. I'm so busy now. And she's like, it totally helped me. So the point is, if you talk to humans, whatever industry you're in, the content will help you. Mastering Inside Sales, it starts tomorrow. So it starts tomorrow, 2:30 Central. 2:30 Central. So if you join, you'll be with me again tomorrow, same time. Same time. There are 2 people from your team. So if you have a team and maybe there's a buyer agent and a listing agent or an ISA and a rainmaker that want to take it, you can have 2 people per registration. It's $199 a month. $199 a month. In that class, I give you 19 language patterns, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what you get. I'll summarize it for you here, but basically we teach you how do you go all the way from hello. Like there is a way to open a call so people don't hang up on you. If you have a lot of people hanging up on you, it's something in your call opener that's causing that for the most part. So how do you open a call so people don't want to hang up on you? All the way through getting the signed agreement. So let me go back here again. I believe that inside sales agents are responsible for the signed agreement just as much as the agent. Okay, if you're an agent and you don't have an inside sales agent, then it's all you. So we're going to teach you the pattern I give you helped my team get a 90% buyers hiring us, 95% of sellers hired us. They signed the agreement. Average in the industry is 80. So it works. I'm also going to teach you the business of lead gen, lead conversion. So things like what are you tracking and why? How do you interpret it? How do you set financial goals? Things like that. And then we also talk a lot about quality questions. How do you manage a database that maybe has a bunch of people in there you haven't talked to in forever? And you're like, how do I start a call with this person? I haven't talked to them in so long. I feel awkward. How do I start that call? We teach you that in the class, okay? So masteringinsidesales.com is where you can go. And you'll see there's some info, and then you'll see a sign up button, and that starts tomorrow. Every session is recorded. So if you're thinking, I don't know if I'll always be there, I love when you're live because I like to get to know you. But we do record, so you can watch it after the fact if needed. And again, that starts tomorrow. Just so you know, the class used to be $800 a month for one person. $800 for one person. When COVID hit, we wanted to make it more accessible. So we changed it to $199 for two people as long as you're on the same team. So it's a great value. And we did that a lot. Yes, I'm the instructor. I see your question. Vanessa, it sounds like you're joining us. Yay. What's the difference between this class and language of sales? There are some similarities. This class goes into the business of it. So we're not just teaching you language. We're also teaching you, what does your desk look like? How do you set small goals throughout the day to stay motivated? How do you script practice effectively? There's a right way to script practice and an ineffective way to script practice. How do you do that? I teach you the economic model. So just so you know, when COVID hit, I lived by myself and I was bored. So I sat down and I thought, what's everything that I wish I knew when I got into sales? Everything. And I made an exhaustive list. This is how I entertained myself the first couple of weeks of COVID. Then I took that list and I gave it to other top performers in the industry. And I said, what am I missing? And they added to the list. And that is how it became a 6-month program. So we didn't sit down and think, let's write a 6-month program. We just sat down and thought, what do they need to know? And the content will take 6 months to teach you. Does it make sense? Cool. Is this class the same as Mastering Inside Sales? It is. Yep. I refer to it as the art of relationship-based sales because I feel like when you hear the title Mastering Inside Sales, it might not connect what all you're getting in there. So in that class, Mastering Inside Sales, we're teaching the art of relationship-based sales, as well as the business of it. I give you 4 trackers, things like that. David says, for every interest rate that rises, buyers lose, 10% buying power. So if they can afford a $300,000 house and interest rates go up by 1%, now they can afford a $270,000 house. They just lost 10% buying power, but it'll be about the same price. If that makes, if you have further questions, let me know. Madison was taking notes. Thank you for answering that question. Okay, what other questions? You guys can unmute yourself. What other questions do you have? And I just put the class link into the chat box.
Thanks, Anna.
You're welcome.
I had a question about the objection of, well, if the interest rates slow down the rise of prices, at least I won't have to compete against 50 other people.
So I'm so glad you told me. You're just going to go right into the pattern. I'm so glad you told me. So what I'm hearing you say is you're thinking with the interest rates and the prices, you won't have to compete against as many people. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, tell me what's important to you about not competing against a whole bunch of people. Now, obviously the lead's not here to tell us, but what are they likely going to say?
Well, I don't want to have to overpay, and go out of sight of my budget.
So overpaying and staying in the budget, that's your true objection. So tell me, what's overpaying me? Like, how would you know if you overpaid on a house? And then that's where, Emanuela, you would want to share some local market info about, and also prices are going up, right? So what does that mean, overpay for a house? What does that look like? So that's how I would dig into that. And by the way, the pattern that I gave you today, don't be surprised if you use it 4 times on one call. It's like I would expect if I was hanging out with you all day, just sitting in your space while you're working, I would expect to hear it in the whole course of a day. If you lead generate 3 hours in the morning, gosh, I would expect to hear that probably at least 20 to 30 times, for real. Because almost everyone you talk to will have 1 or more objections. So you want to practice it to the point it's your knee-jerk reaction. You got to practice, practice, practice. Oh, Cynthia, yeah, the class is $199 a month for 6 months, every month. Okay. So ultimately it's just under $1,200, but we didn't want to say, give us $1,200 right now. So it's $199 once a month for 6 months. And here's the thing, if you get 1 closing, I did the math on this the other day. If you get 1 closing, that's 8 times ROI at the average commission rate right now. And I will tell you, I had a student recently tell me that they had 10 additional held, not set, 10 additional held appointments a month because of this class within the first 2 months. I had another student tell me that they're set, when I say set to held, it means I set the appointment and then it actually happened. Within 2 weeks, another student told me their set rate went from 40% to 80%. So just take a minute and think about your business. If you doubled your set to held rate, you're already setting the appointment. Let's just get these people to show up. And you doubled that, would that pay for the class? So I'm convinced if you show up and you don't sleep, and you actually take notes, you show up, you practice, in my mind, it's impossible to not make that $199 back multi times over. But you got to ask yourself, am I ready, willing, and able to show up? But if you are, I have no doubt, just I've taught this enough, I have the confidence in the program, you will see benefit. Oh, thank you, Graham.
Do you have, hey Anna, this is Carmen. Do you have time for one more how to handle an objection?
Real quick, we have 1 minute left, so just say it kind of quick.
All right, have the seller, when they bought a few years back, refinance, interest rate is under twos, mid twos. They need a bigger house. There is motivation, bigger house, better locations. But now that bigger house at a highest 5, maybe 6 interest rate, it's hard for them to assimilate that.
So that's where Carmen, and I'm glad that you know their motivation. I would take what I taught you today about uncovering objections and go back and talk about their motivation. And just say, you know, hey, I was thinking about you, like I told Jennifer earlier. Hey, I was thinking about you, and I was just thinking, I know you want a bigger house, better location. What would that do for you? How will that impact you? What's the meaning of that for your family? So it's like better location, bigger house is still kind of surfacey. So I would spend a little bit more time on that. That will help get them into action. There's a bold law, if you've ever taken the class, it says logic makes people think, but emotion makes them act. So emotion, which is motivation, that is the number one thing that will get them moving forward. And then Carmen, you know, part of me wishes I could be in the conversation because it's going to be kind of organic. But what I want to say is if you ever want a bigger house, you're going to have to face the fact that interest rates are higher than they were. They're still low. When I bought my house, it was 4.5%, and I was pretty happy with that. Honestly, we just got used to extraordinarily low interest rates. So Carmen, I wouldn't say it to them like this. So let me tell you what I'm thinking, and then we'll package it nicely. And then I'll hang on. If we have a couple more questions, I'll hang tight if you can, Graham, our moderator. So Carmen, what I'm thinking in my head is, unless you want to die in that house, you're going to have to face the fact someday that interest rates are higher and prices are higher. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not going to say that to the client unless they're a highly direct person and we have the rapport, okay? In that case, I would likely say, well, dig into it, you know, what's concerning you, get into all that. But then I would just explain the data, show them and tell them what I just showed you. It's all on keepingcurrentmatters.com, and just explain to them, interest rates are expected to continue rising. Prices are expected to continue going up. So I think you just have to evaluate, is the benefit of getting closer to work, better location, bigger house, how important is that to you? And that's why I started answering your question with, you got to get deeper motivation. Okay.
All right, thank you.
The deeper motivation, and then explain the data. It'd be different, guys, if the projections were that rates were going to go down. This would be a different training. And whenever that happens, I'll do a training on it. But right now, that's not the case. Okay, any other questions about mastering inside sales? Bonnie, I just want to read this. Nice job, Bonnie. She took the class and has not had anyone not keep the appointment. That's awesome. Nice job applying the info. Oh, do you have to contract for all 6 months? It is a 6-month commitment. So they say in the contract that it's no cancel. So what I would say is don't sign up unless you're prepared to just be all in. But again, one closing at the average commission rate gives you back 8 times what you paid. So it should for sure pay off. It should pay off. I would say the worst case scenario is 4 times payoff. Like just thinking of some of the lower markets, 4 times will pay for the class. And I'm confident. I've been teaching this since 2008. I revamped it when COVID hit, but I've been teaching this content since 2008. promise you, it totally works. I was a high school teacher who said I would never do business or sales. I didn't have one lick of sales training. And what I'm teaching you is what was taught to me. And I've had a huge successful career because of it. And I'm not special. I'm not bragging. Like, what I'm trying to say is this was not my thing. And I feel really good at it now because of the stuff I learned. And that's just what I'm teaching to you. I'm just like passing it off to you. So I'm convinced that you will see your value from the class. I have no question about it, as long as you show up. And that could mean you watch the recording. That's fine. But as long as you're engaged, I have no doubt.
Is it one time per week, or how often?
Yeah, it's once per week on Wednesday, 2:30 Central for an hour, much like this one. Similar format. You get to meet lots of people doing the same thing, and we have a script partner network. And what we do is we meet 3 weeks and then take a week off. 3 weeks, take a week off, and here's why. We used to teach it faster, and people weren't remembering as much. Imagine getting what you got today, week after week after week. Pretty soon that would be overwhelming. So we give you 3 weeks, take a week off so that you can practice, get it all down. And then the next month we start again with 3 hours of info, all recorded.
You mentioned about a partner, a script partner.
I don't assign it because, one, that would be a logistical nightmare. And two, I want you to be able to pick who you're with. But what I do is everyone fills out a Google form and I share it. And then you can look, I ask a whole bunch of questions. What's your time zone? What's your specialty? What time can you script? And then you can look at that list and then choose someone to partner with. Cool. So again, that's masteringinsidesales.com. It starts tomorrow. And guys, if you would do me a favor, tell people. A lot of people don't know the class exists despite my best efforts, and really word of mouth is the best thing. So if you would post on social media, let people know. And I'll end with this final thought. If I'm not helping you see the value of the class, you should be concerned. So if you're like, I see it, I can see the value, let me teach you how to do that with your clients. Take the class, okay? Brandy thinks I'm funny. Thank you. It's my favorite part of the week. I'm just going to tell you. I love teaching that class. It's so much fun. Oh, how can we get another team member on the calls? Email and Rodrigo, or Graham, I'm sorry. Rodrigo's usually on here. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you email fasttrack@kw.com. Tell them which class you signed up for and who the additional person is with email. Remember, 2 people, but they have to be on your team. It used to be 1 person for $800. So just honor that. 2 people, $199, but they do have to be on your team. Okay, I want to respect Graham's time and your time, and we are 5 minutes over. I hope to see you tomorrow. It really is my favorite hour of the week. Tell your friends, tell people, let them know. A lot of people don't know the class exists. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. And make sure you practice what you learned today. You will absolutely see a difference in your business as long as you apply what you learned today. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.